One of the least talked about properties owned by Jeffrey Epstein is his Paris mansion. There are almost no photos of its interior, with the only look at its inside coming years after Epstein's death, when the property was finally sold. If you know anything about Jeffrey Epstein, you're probably aware that he made a habit of purchasing expensive properties. The most infamous of these is the Little St. James Island, but he also owned mansions in New York City, Palm Beach, Florida, and New Mexico. On top of that, he also made plays for other properties that many people don't know about, with one of the more consequential being this one with a French name that I won't even try to pronounce because I'll just embarrass myself. That property was a 62,000 square foot mansion in Palm Beach with 500 feet of ocean frontage. Now, he was outmaneuvered on this property by none other than Donald Trump. This little episode led to the end of Jeffrey Epstein's friendship with Donald Trump, which has been in the news extensively recently. Ironically, the name of this mansion translates to House of Friendship in English. Epstein's Paris mansion is nowhere near the size of that mansion, but it's still gigantic at nearly 8,000 square feet with 8 bedrooms. That's about 4 times the size of the average American household. It's located on Avenue Foch in the heart of Paris with a view of the Arc de Triomphe. According to the listing, which made no reference to who exactly the eccentric owner of such a lavish property was, the property is located, quote, in one of the most sumptuous buildings on Avenue Foch, with more than 5 meters high ceilings. Continuing on, it says, the owner combined 2 large apartments. This rare apartment impresses not only by its size, but also the quality of its renovation, completely redone by a famous world-renowned decorator. Now I'll just jump in here to say that the decorator's name was Alberto Pinto, and he was no small-time decorator. He decorated for families such as the royal family of Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and many other billionaires and high-profile clients. This was no IKEA operation. This guy was extremely prolific and I'm sure extremely expensive. But unfortunately, he died in 2012. Continuing on, the listing says, a huge entrance gallery opens onto a double reception, a large office, a dining room, kitchen, a huge master bedroom with its own office, a beautiful fitness room, as well as 4 other bedrooms. In total, this apartment can boast more than 7 bedrooms. Now, the listing facts say that there are 8 bedrooms. I'm not sure why they chose to word it that way, but the more interesting fact is that none of the bedrooms mentioned are actually photographed in the listing. The only ones that we can see are common rooms, offices, things like that. Epstein purchased the property in 2002 for 1.2 million euros, eventually purchasing and expanding into an adjacent property in 2004. Flight records show that Epstein visited Paris quite frequently, flying to and from France 11 times in the 18 months before he died, and he was actually headed back to the United States from France when he was arrested in Teterboro Airport in New Jersey in 2019 and sent to jail for the final time. The mansion itself is quite remarkable. It has unique interior design in every room. However, unlike Epstein's other properties, there are almost no photos of associates inside of the property. Epstein had numerous associates in the French modeling world, including Jean-Luc Brunel, head of the modeling agency that Jeffrey Epstein supported financially called MC2 Models. On top of that, several sources say that Prince Andrew came to the property, including Epstein's Paris butler. He said, quote, Mr. Epstein had a business relationship with Prince Andrew. I saw him several times in the apartment on Avenue Foch. He even stayed there for several days without Mr. Epstein being there. I cooked him food. He loves my pasta gratin. This butler is quite a character. He was apparently willing to share information about who had visited the apartment with just about any journalist that was able to ask. According to a report in TRT Global, quote, Jeffrey Epstein's luxurious apartment served as a reception venue for well-known personalities. Jack Lang, who is a French politician, admits to having been invited to dinner, as was Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's former advisor, who reportedly stayed at Epstein's house in October 2018. Bill and Melinda Gates also reportedly visited 22 Avenue Foch. The butler mentions that he, quote, took care of them and cooked them a poached egg souffle. According to that same butler, the mansion has a custom-fitted massage room which was frequented by women who had paid relations with Jeffrey Epstein. Shortly after Epstein died in prison in New York City, French officials searched both his home and the home of Jean-Luc Brunel. Those officials announced investigations of Epstein for crimes of a sexual nature, not unlike the ones that he was looking at in the United States. However, 2 days before that investigation began, Epstein's butler claimed that someone associated with Epstein's 1953 trust, which I spoke about in this video, which I'll link above, told him to make a visit to the apartment. The purpose of that visit is unclear, but it does raise questions given that the investigation would open only about 48 hours later. In 2022, 3 years after Jeffrey Epstein died, his Paris mansion was finally purchased by a man named Georgi Tushev, head of a Bulgarian plastics manufacturer. He paid about 10 million euros, or about $10.5 million, 10 times the amount that Jeffrey Epstein initially paid, with proceeds from the sale, according to the lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein's estate, going towards his victims.